For instance, I had a friend who was allowed to make his arcane focus some earrings he was wearing. And he went extra far, and he's like, yeah, these are actually containing my soul, and if I get detached from them, I become a zombie. And I was like, oh, alright, you're going crazy, but that sounds fun.
But I'm gonna find a way to make you lose those earrings, bud.
No, I'm usually a good boy in D&D. I don't play a lot of mean ones.
If somebody has a weakness, I would like to find a way to use it against them. Just for
that's a smart way. That's a smart way of thinking as a DM, because you should think of a person's weakness if they get too strong in combat. But anyway, more on with magic before I go into that.
Not even if they just get too strong in combat. Just if they've made this vital weakness to their character, that's just absolutely stupid. Just, no. No, you need to learn.
I mean, one part of that is like, oh yeah, you shouldn't make your character so weak, but another part of it's like, oh, it's so fun to have that though.
That is true.
It would be annoying to have
a monster plinks their earring off, or like an arrow goes through the earring and the feathers catch it.
I usually for stuff like that, I wouldn't usually allow a normal monster to like target them like that. But let's say you're in like a final fight against this guy that's been watching your party for a long time. And he has like, let's say you have that guy in a whole person
He's like the
spell.
secondary DM.
I mean, the monster at that point is like, you want to make it a monster that you have fun playing. I'll say that. Make sure you make monsters like that. What? If you make monsters. I wouldn't recommend making monsters until you know what you're doing yet.
Yeah, I figure as much.
Yeah, making monsters can be fun, but if you just make them bad, then... but like, let's say it's a final fight, and you're making it one where it's like, oh, I want this to be a hard fight, because it's the last one, I want it to leave an impression upon my players. So, you can do stuff like, maybe I kill a player, so now the mission is that they all have to resurrect the guy in the next campaign, but because the guy actually lived to a point that he, like, you know, should be allowed to get to. Well, should. If he doesn't die in a fight that isn't meant to, like, you know, probably kill one of them, then it should be a reward to let him, like, pick up a new character at about that level, but just with, like, a little bit of a different backstory that he doesn't make as, like, interesting, maybe.
I had all of my characters wake up in jail, because I'm just, well, what else do I do? Have them do like the Skyrim startup to where it's on a convoy to jail.
How's it going?
I mean,
Sorry to inform you that this is off limits. Over it.
I'm also recording this, by the way, so that way I can look back at it for reference and show my friends too.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Because I trust you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a bit, though I will say I'm still learning.
You're always learning with this.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes it really fun later on, along with the fact that people start getting bored of, like, the basic stuff, so you start have to go, like, really crazy with it. So, like, a classic move, let's say, like, there's a wizard in a tower. And then, eventually people are like, wow, you've done this, like, 3 times, it's really boring now. So now this time you make it a reverse underground tower with a bunch of goblin traps in it or something, and they're like, well, that's a bit more interesting. And then the next time, the tower's just a big old dead worm, and there's, like, stomach acid pits in it, and, like, there's weird digestive little things, and there's, like, parasites inside that you gotta fight. Yeah, it's its own dungeon somehow.
So, inverted spire, but with hive. From Destiny 2.
Yes.
It might have been in Destiny 1, I don't quite remember. Why can I not dress up as this person? I knocked out a doctor, dragged them into the bathroom, but I can't dress up as a doctor. What?
Illegal. You're not allowed to do that.
You know what? I can take these two people, so I'm going to beat you with the wrench. You're going to realize, and I'll beat you with the wrench. Hey, I can disguise as a doctor now.
He just couldn't disguise that one, huh?
I think it was because the other doctor was a chick. That might be it. And, you know, Agent 47's a dude, so...
Yeah, maybe it's a different fit, but I don't know. I guess that makes sense.
Because I've also noticed that you can't ever dress up as female characters in this. I don't know why.
I would assume it's because they're wearing a different fitting of clothes, though.
But especially with a doctor uniform, because it's like a loose lab coat.
Yeah, I guess that makes a bit more sense.
They can't let you see women's undergarments in this. Men, yeah, that's fine. But not women's
Doctor,
undergarments.
we are having some security-related issues, and I can't let you through here right now.
Let me continue with spellcast, so I can get that finished. So,
Alright.
I did everyone except for Bardic. So Bardic is the really funny one. Where they come in, and their spellcasting just comes from inspiration. Which is a fun idea, because some people actually have been, well, yeah, some people actually just do, not have been. Some people like to make bards that are, instead of being based off of music and singing and such, are instead based off of other, like, artistic practices. So, for instance, stuff such as painting, like I mentioned earlier, which makes for an interesting idea on the spellcasting part of it. Because usually, the verbal and somatic pieces...
absolutely horrendous painter. So you just have, like, all these little, like, 5-year-old drawings, and that's how you cast all your spells.
It's just the best I can do, man.
Why are your spells
It would be very
so
interesting.
shit?
It's very interesting
Holds up
in
a
a sense
drawing
of...
a dog and it looks more like a shark.
Doctor, I'm sorry to be the one to inform you, but this area is not accessible at the moment.
Yeah,
Please take
I like some of those ideas, because one part you also want to, like, enforce into your players is how should you, well, should you, quotes around that, imagine what your character is doing. So, yeah, stuff like somatic. Your character is going to be waving around their hands when they cast a somatic spell. And they're going to be speaking strange words when they're doing verbal. And also, that changes for the different, like, ways that you would do it. So an arcane spellcaster and a, like, divine spellcaster, maybe the divine guy is saying prayers to his god, while the arcane guy is just kind of saying, like, some garbly goop. Maybe you're playing a warlock and you have a patron to one of the old eldritch gods.
For the one about, like, waving your hands and doing arm movements, you make it sound like you're signaling a helicopter down to escape from, like, an uncharted island or something. Help!
I mean, that's the fun part about some spells, because you actually just gotta clobber things. And not a lot of spells actually describe how they're cast. So it's usually up to the players in DM. So for instance, a spell that does describe how it's cast is Burning Hands, which is a cone of fire you can cast out, so like a flamethrower attack, kinda. Where you connect your thumbs and you put down all of your other fingers except for your pinkies, and you make them into like a V shape. So where the pinkies kinda aim at each other but don't at the same time. And then that casts out the flame wave, or whatever. But other stuff, yeah, usually it's up to the player. And also, I will say this, you can actually flavor spells as long as it doesn't mess with the stats. So for instance, I had a friend, he's the guy that was playing the Shadar-kai Raven Queen Cleric. He had the spell Holy Shield, but he wanted to make it more of like, ooh, I want to make it more about this god kind of thing. So instead of it being like a classic yellow holy shield kind of idea with like a symbol on it, it was a shield made out of raven feathers, and it had like some purple like glow to it, and it was stuff like that. So as long, and it didn't change the stats at all or how it was used, it just was like, oh, look at this kind of thing, which I figure is pretty important to do if you want to like really get lost in the fantasy of the game. I also, a nice thing to do for some players is to make custom spells once you're able to do that. So for instance, it's a very classic wizard thing to do to actually make spells as you like progress through the game. Because even some of the base spells in the game are spells such as Mordecaine's Magical Sword. So the wizard was so well renowned that his spell has his name in it instead of just being Magical Sword. Or something like Bigby's Hand, which is just a really big hand made by a guy whose name was Gushting Bigby. And stuff like that.
Labor name is Big B.
Bigby. It's compared to Gushting Mordecai.
Understood, sir. Standing there. What the hell?
Yeah, so there's stuff like that. Maybe I should get into schools now, because we're still talking about magic. So the schools of magic, the way that they work is that, let me think if I can think of all of them, because I definitely won't be able to, but, my favorite is Abjuration, and Abjuration is mainly defensive magic. So, spells that put shields on your allies, spells that protect your allies, or banishing spells even, which can include the spell Banishment. Oh wow, that spell, I wouldn't expect that, to where you can banish demons with it. Or, what's another one that's like of that class?
At first, I thought you said Vanishment. Make your enemy invisible. Where did he go?
Wow, how strong. Now they gain a bonus whenever I try to hit them. But,
Whenever
oh, yeah.
I try, chance to hit 0%. Well, now what?
You have disadvantage to hit invisible targets, I believe. Yeah, stat-wise, I think is considered a -2 or -3, but on the dice, it's... You take 2 dice, they're both d20s, you roll both of them and you take the lower number. Or you can just roll the same d20 twice if you wanna, and you take the lower number. But anyway, Abjuration is my favorite because it includes 2 spells, which are Dispel Magic and Anti-Magic. Dispel Magic and Counterspell. They're both Anti-Magic, that's what it is. So for instance, Counterspell is my favorite one, where you take your spell slot, 4th through 9th, I think, and if another creature is casting a spell that is of that rank or lower, they instantly lose that spell for that cast.
Oh.
Which, the strongest way you can apply this is if a evil character is casting a really incredibly powerful spell, such as Wish, or gosh dang, Power Word Kill.
Oh yeah, you told me about Wish.
Yeah, Wish is the most powerful spell in the game, but it like puts detriments onto the wizard for like days on end. But anywho, your character goes as a reaction.
Wish's member of the party was dead. Oh, I hear you say you wish this guy were dead. Wish works, kills the party member. Now
usually you have to be like mentally like I'm casting the spell right now.
I heard you wish this guy were dead as DM. Wait, no. Just the entire party's freaking out. No, take it back.
Nails, I need another bill. The effect is waning. This way. Evening, Captain. Show you where my stash is. Hey, I get it. You're not an errand boy.
So, I'm leading this doctor to my stash of pills that he apparently needs, And it's a room with a knocked out guy on the floor and 2 bodies in the closet. And knockout you go. Alright, into the room you come.
Oh yeah. So Obduration's my favorite because it has those spells, and you can just straight up tell a lich not to cast the spell, and he just won't. He'll lose the spell for that like entire combat.
You know,
I love it so much.
You really shouldn't lose that spell. Okay, fine. Wait a second, it's gone now.
Yeah, because it absorbs the spell slot that they were using in any consumables for the spell as well, which is incredibly mean.
I feel like I could create some fun with that in a couple of doppelgangers.
Anti-magic and doppelgangers?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, actually, if you set doppelgangers in an anti-magic zone, that's a really smart idea that I'm actually probably going to use now that I think about it.
No,
because
but
doppelgangers...
Also, using the anti-magic to take away some of the party members' spells.
You would have to do, like, I think sleight of hand on the doppelgangers so that the players don't notice. If they, like, try and do perception checks to, like, see who's doing it.
Yeah, but
because
if it seems like they're about to be given away anyways...
Yeah, you gave me the idea, though, where you can set doppelgangers in a place called an anti-magic zone, in which magic straight up just doesn't work, of like any type.
Which would include turning into members of the party, I'm assuming?
No, actually, because those are racial traits, funnily enough. So, Doppelganger's main weakness, actually, is people casting magic to find out who they are. So if you did that in a place like that, they'd actually have to, like, chance a bunch of garbage.
Hey, who are you? Oh, shit!
Hey, who are you, nurse? Ah, shit, gets beaten down with a crowbar. These are the kinds of things I do.
Alright, so then I should go into other schools. So there's like evocation, and evocation is your damage spells. So it's stuff such as fireball, lightning bolt, firebolt, thunder wave, stuff like that. To where it's usually you summoning some sort of effect to deal damage to another person. Which strangely enough includes healing, but a lot of people actually retcon that just from the base books. And if you ask me, that makes sense, because evocation is not the school for that when you have necromancy, which is control of life. And I really think necromancy should be the school where, like, healing goes into, because necromancy isn't all bad. Well, while some things are kind of like, wow, you're mean for using this spell. Like, let's say vampiric touch is like a spell you're mean for using. Because you are harming the person on a spiritual level. You are harming their soul by casting that.
Oh.
So you're a mean guy for that. But if you cast, like, summon undead, create undead, undead, garbage, 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 like that, that is considered straight up, like, unlawful. You are, like, actually evil for that. Because you're summoning creatures into the world that are, like, naturally evil and going to harm people. Like, even while they're under your control, they might just, like, you know, not work as you intend and start killing people.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, so there's that. Then there's like conjuration, which is like summoning magic, so you can summon more like objects and stuff. So like you can create stuff like a wooden beam or something stupid like that.
Stop that right now. You animal.
Yeah, sounds pretty nice.
It's mainly your summoner kind of spell stuff. So like you can summon like creatures, like woodland boys, green bean boys.
we have a positive ID on a guy. He has one of those lab coat smart guy things on. Ah,
Get him.
yes. Those lab coat smart guy things.
Ah, smart guy things. Yeah, the best part about some of the Hitman games is some of the like background dialogue.
It's because I'm hunted and I'm holding out in a room with a crowbar.
You're pretty good, I'll give you that. What are you, former Special Forces? Delta? We could use someone like you.
Oh, they want to hire me. I will gladly come on to the position. You know, the ICA hasn't been paying me well lately. I will gladly take the position. Well, you just turned your gun on me, so night-night you go.
Well, you turned around and you broke my toes, so I'm gonna have to kill you. Well, yeah,
You know what? I've been working on so hard by killing this guy with the surgery equipment. I have a gun on me. He's dead.
He's dead.
Why was I working so hard on using the surgery equipment and stuff?
There, in the corridor.
I don't know.
I also
what's some of
just
the
threw a
schools
hammer
that-
around a corner and knocked a guy out.
Oh yeah, there's illusion and enchantments. So enchantments are actually stuff like charming people, and like being like, "You will follow my command," kind of stuff.
These are not
Well-
the droids you were looking for.
Yes, that'd be the school. To where you're like, kind of forcing them to change in a weird function.
Miss Burnwood.
And then illusions is just like tricking their eyes or mind, technically, I guess, in some situations.
Oh yeah, I had somebody mess up and use illusion on like either one of their party members or themselves, so they could have a conversation with themselves.
I didn't catch you.
Because they messed up a spell or something, so I made it so they used it on themselves, so they're just chatting with themselves.
Not for soldiers, nor any other recent fiascos.
How strange.
Someone's been meddling in our affairs.
Yeah, so illusions are usually stuff like that.
And making the ICA look like fools.
There's kind of a school of magic that is not actually, like, allowed to be accessed normally, which is psionics.
That's
Which
why we're hiring you.
is magic that's not magic, because it's not affected by anti-magic, where you basically attack people's brains
Rattle our cages,
and deal
Miss
psychic
Burnwood.
damage to them. Like, you give them, like, headaches,
You have no idea.
or headaches strong enough to kill them, pretty much.
Bribe our people. And you have the gall to demand
Which,
our...
very interesting, a creature that uses that in the game would be Mind Flayers. They have a ability called Mind Blast,
We've been
where they
around for
basically,
a
they
long
blast a
while.
wave of psychic energy at you, and it hurts
think
you,
we could help each
like,
other.
physically.
Also,
And you
I
can die
did-
from it if the pump hurt.
I did actually use the good handwriting thing once with my party, but I think I put it under
20 years
dexterity.
ago,
And it was so that way they could basically forge passports to get out of prison. But yet one of them
actually-
still really wanted to rappel out the prison window
cares about you.
because they were barred windows, but the guy was playing as like a rat person,
Since that time,
so he could squeeze through the bars.
same problem made him.
And he really wanted to rappel out the window.
Doctor. Some...
Just, can I get rope and rappel out the window?
He's gone now.
Well, your stuff is outside the cell. And then his friend manages to create fake passports, get the guards to just be like, oh, okay, you guys shouldn't be in here.
I think we
And then they walked out of prison, but that one guy really wanted to rappel out the window.
So he went back
For
in.
no apparent reason. That same guy also tried to fuck a goblin, the guy who kept spam attacking everything because he wouldn't miss.
Oh, he was a barbarian goblin?
No, he killed a goblin, and then his
Oh.
friend wanted to rape the goblin
Terrorists, if you
that was hung
Ah,
up to
very
a
nice.
tree. No, you have to roll a 99 out of 100 dexterity, because I have different dice roll apps on my phone. And I'm just... You messed up, you prematurely ejaculated. Because I will not allow this.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't particularly like that kind of action, but that's up to the DM.
I just wouldn't allow it to happen. I didn't do anything to spite the guy afterwards.
Yeah.
The only
Fine
person
enough.
I tried to spite was the guy who kept spam attacking everything.
I can see the reasoning, but still, almost on your part for giving it to him in the first place, I'd say.
That is true.
Just remember to retcon things if need be.
Yeah. I don't know how you get the sniper rifle in this game. I really want a sniper rifle so that way I can use it effectively. So, is there anything else to it?
Alright, yeah, last thing I was talking about was magic. I think I covered oh, there's also transmutation, which is like the changing of materials. So basically you can like... You could
Makes like
form things and
800
things.
makes like 800 wooden rings with wood carving, turns them into gold.
I don't know, I forget the limitations because I actually, like, transmutation is boring, but not at the same time. I haven't looked into it enough, but I'm gonna make a guy for it eventually. It has some buff spells in it too, actually, which are pretty good. So, like, it can make people larger, and it increases their damage by a pretty high amount, if, you know, you do.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be reasonable limitations to that.
Yeah, there is. Oh my.
Why are you so lame? Oh, so if I get to mastery level 5 on the first mission, then I'll get a sniper rifle. So that's one way to do that. Will it only be on that mission?
Alright. What's some of the stuff I should think about? There's also stuff like, trying to make even like custom mundane items. Those are actually like the easiest ones to do. So for instance, some people like to make items that are more based off of stuff like martial arts. So my one buddy Corey wanted tonfa, which are like police batons, but you know, martial art time. They're the same design, but they're used a little bit differently. Actually, I think they're used in a similar way, but not like all the exact ways. Anyway, he wanted tonfa, but tonfa aren't just like in base D&D, obviously. So the way that I made them was just straight up. I took clubs, and because clubs are a dual-wielding weapon, because they're light. I just made those named tonfa, and then it was a custom item, and that's all I had to do.
Oh.
So it can be actually intensely easy sometimes. And you can do that for a lot of stuff too. So like, what's some good ideas? I mean, some things just have different names. So if a guy wants like a flamberge or a Zweihandler, you can just use the greatsword base and just change the name. So still really basic, but still works.
Yeah. Okay, so I can get snipers extremely easily in this game. That is nice.